Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by Lines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, back with Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at 5 games here on Tuesday night after a day where Nate and I made some separate video picks for you, going pretty much undefeated all across the board, including those player props. We've also got another game video and player props for you today as well, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Also head to the Lines.com. You can check out all the great written content we have up there for you guys and use that odds finder tool that we have to make sure you're getting the best odds available to you guys from all those U.S. sports books this season. Nate, let's get into this 5-game slate and then talk about the game we're talking about here. A would-be marquee matchup, the Celtics and Bucks. Just not sure how many Celtics we're going to be seeing in this one.
Well, it sounds like they definitely won't have Tatum, Brown, and Marcus Smart. So that's a big hit, and the spreads climbed from +4 to +9 in spots. Total is at 225 here in Milwaukee. The Magic are +7 at Toronto. Kings, the other game we break down, +2.5 at Phoenix with a 233 total there. Warriors are on a back-to-back, +8.5 now at the Clippers. And then the Wizards, both teams on a back-to-back here, +3.5 at Portland, 235 total. I don't think you can set a high enough total for Portland right now. They have no D. But we are talking Celtics Bucks here, and I mean, this is kind of it's not like an aggressive stars out, bets up situation, but it is still, in my mind, the Celtics being undervalued, a little disrespected without Tatum. I mean, who is, don't get me wrong, a verifiable MVP candidate and a tough loss here in this Bucks matchup. Like, he's been particularly great against the Bucks. Like, it'd be one thing if it was Tatum out against, I don't know, the Warriors. I mean, this is the one team that comes to mind. It's like teams he struggles against, Miami sometimes. But, you know, he's really the key here in terms of their offense coming along against the Bucks in recent matchups. At the same time, I just think that there's enough of a supporting cast here that will step up the others, if you will. Like, Boston's third string team is pretty damn good still. Like, guys like Pritchard, Hauser. Now you add Mike Muscala to that mix. The guys that just were usually buried on the depth chart, but they've been thrust into spot start. And we saw Hauser come up clutch to basically beat the Sixers. Pritchard when he plays, and Derek White, what he's able to do with expanded usage. They will get Brogdon back in here. And Brogdon, he's only a couple years removed from being a verifiable 1A option on the Pacers, right? And on a solid Pacers team. He can handle the load as well. Big key is Rob Williams going to play? As always, that's vital against a Bucks team that is getting much better scoring in the paint, but still surprisingly 3-point heavy during this 10-game win streak. 41.5 3-point attempts per game, hitting a third of those, playing at a 102 pace, which is down from recently from how it started there in that streak, but. Under in 5 of their last 6, still playing at that pace. But the games are averaging 228, and they're limiting the 3-point attempts and makes from other teams. But Boston I think, is going to find a way to counter that. They're going to get their 3-point looks off. They have hit a lot against Milwaukee. I mean, credit Tatum for bending the defense in some ways in those. But I think Joe Mazzulla is doing a great job. I mean, their games... And when these teams get together, there just tend to be a lot of points, right? And Milwaukee also tends to not cover. It's really a trend, not just against the Celtics, but against a lot of teams the last 2 seasons when they have this kind of 10-point spread where, I shy away from it for sure, taking Milwaukee. Like, I wouldn't be aggressive betting the Celtics at +9, but I would definitely lean that way. I mean, the Bucks have won 7 of their last 8 home games against the Celtics, but they failed to cover 9 of their last 10 at home. So, I mean, I'm leaning here towards Celtics covering and it going over in any fashion you want. I think even if Milwaukee runs away with it, they're scoring about 120 at home. I don't think the Celtics are getting held below 100, even with their third stringers, the way I talked about them. And the pace of play at 102 or better, I think we're definitely looking at least, a 230-ish total here. So I think the over is probably my first look.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit of a better bet at this point than a 9-point spread. But I think what's interesting, we were gonna full transparency, like we were gonna talk about this game. When I started looking at it late last night on the West Coast, and everybody's out or doubtful for the Celtics, it was still at 4, so I hit it, by the way, and would recommend that you're staying on top of early lines for that exact reason. If you're able to look at an injury report and see doubtful for their best player and out for their second best player, and out for one of their top defenders, questionable for the couple others. I think with the way that this Bucks team's won 10 in a row, you still got to feel good about them at home in a situation where, yes, they at least beat the Celtics pretty consistently in these regular season matchups like this. Giannis goes off, Tatum usually goes off, and we can expect somewhere around like a 128, 122 type of game. But it's just not the same scenario now. And at -4, it's a wonderful bet. At -9, I think what's interesting that I was going to say here is, there's two ways that this could go, and I think that the game theories line up for either the Bucks to blow them out and this game to probably go over because they're going to get the 125 themselves and just need 100 points from the Celtics. Or this is going to be a lot closer, but I still think it goes over the 224, because now you're talking about a game in the teens, maybe like 117, 114, 120, 118, something like that. But it's still close enough that the Bucks are getting their points, I think, is what we feel good about in this one. I mean, the way that this gets slowed down is, that the Celtics would really need to have a type of game without Tatum and Brown on the floor, where they feel really good about their half-court offense and they're cutting and moving and they're sort of a positionless basketball. But it's just, that's not their team. They're not just like a big 3-and-D team. The way that they would love to play is have Rob Will out there so that they can at least press up on those Milwaukee shooters enough to also have somebody back there for when Giannis starts charging towards the basket. Obviously, they also really need Grant Williams for that reason, exactly, because he's also questionable. So I think if he's not playing, it's probably if one or both of them are not playing, it's going to be really tough for them to stop what Milwaukee's doing, even if they try to slow that pace down, which Milwaukee is not going to let them do. I think we know that, right? The last 10 with the 102 pace and the threes in transition, 14 made threes on like 38 attempts from deep during that time. They're chucking the ball a lot, still scoring, the 33%, but they're getting a ton of those up because of the fact that they want to play fast. They're getting a ton of defensive rebounds, the best defensive rebounding team in the last 10, which before, when Brooke or Giannis were out at one point this season, they were struggling to rebound for a while, and they've come back to be the best defensive rebounding team in the league, limiting three-pointers a lot better. But the Celtics are going to get them up tonight. Like you're saying, you look at who the backup cast is here and what they do when Tatum's not on the floor, especially, and it's going to be obviously a lot of Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White back there. But I really think that's where you need great guys like Grant Williams and Rob Williams to be able to provide something other than just shooting, because now you're talking about Hauser, Pritchard, Cornette, Muscala, right? Like, sure, Cornette's doing fine down low, but he's not going to be a rim protector the way that you would need once Giannis is in there. They're just going to need all the big bodies they can get to be able to hang in this one, is my opinion. So if you don't see Grant Williams or Rob Will out there, I kind of still feel good about the 9 for them at that point. I know it seems like stars out, bets up, but they're going to need a ton of three-pointers in this one to be able to hang, I think, and also keep them off the glass, where the Bucks have been getting second chance points in their last 10 to the tune of the third best, and that's just going to be a huge problem, man, if they're not able to stop the boards and stop Giannis barreling to the basket.
Well, this is eerily similar to Game 81 last year, where Tatum sat for rest and they played the Bucks and they were killing the Celtics. Like, how are you gonna, we need to play for seeding here. How are you just gonna like punt this game against the Bucks? And they hung though, 127-121. The Bucks won. Granted, Smart and Brown did a lot of the heavy lifting on offense, but Hauser and Pritchard were great off the bench. Daniel Tice chips in for 22, so it's not like the others that they have now in the front court can't contribute. And the Celtics hit 21 threes at 42%, which maybe you think is an outlier, but I mean, to me, it shows the sophistication of the scheme to be able to get shots without necessarily needing Tatum to bend a defense. He's only missed 3 games this year, Tatum. The first one against Washington did go hella over. Again, 51 bench points from the Celtics. That's exactly what I'm looking at here. Hauser and Pritchard leading the way. And then the other 2 did go under, were very choppy, but those are against Orlando and Toronto, 2 teams that aren't going to push the pace the way Milwaukee is at all, and aren't going to do their part of the scoring the way Milwaukee is during this 10-game win streak, where they're just, chalk it up, 119. They're probably scoring that. So I just trust the Celtics to come along enough to get at least, 6 or 7 more points there over 100 to get that total.
Yeah. I think that the total is the play once this gets up to its really high spread here for the Bucks. But I would still consider a money line parlay for them at the very least if you did feel good enough about them pulling, or if you feel good enough about the total, to be honest, because I feel good enough about them pulling out this W. And I think with and without Tatum this season, even if you look at the on-off court numbers, I think that's crucial, where they go from a 118 offensive rating with him on the floor to that 107 offensive rating with him off the floor, and that includes when JB's out there and Marcus Smart when they're available. So it does get a little bit stagnant this season, it seems, when Tatum's not on the floor to take some of that attention so that they can get those open threes. But I'm with you either way. I think they're going to get enough ball movement and enough 3-pointers up to be able to hang with the Bucks, who will do more than their part to get this thing over 224.5. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Follow along with the other game video and player props that we have up for you tonight. So until we see you next, happy betting.